been a while since I've had a video out, and today's video is on YouTube, but it's also going to be on all the other platforms that I do, and it's going to be my first video on Twitter. I've come back onto Twitter. I took a break for many years from social media, but I went back on Twitter because I actually started using it as a way to aggregate news, and I like it for that. But it also seems like another potential free speech platform, and I'm not holding my breath. But I have my videos up on the other content platforms as well, Rumble, Odyssey, and of course, I'm still on YouTube. So this will be my first video on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, just follow me at offgridstone, and that's my Twitter handle. I'm on the deck of the house right now, and it's kind of, the morning light is quite intense, which is amazing. And maybe I'll move around the homestead a little bit. But today I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And people ask me all the time, because, you know, when I started doing live streams, when I started calling out the scamdemic when it was happening, I showed people and explained to people that I've been into this stuff for a long time. I've been searching for the truth for many, many years, over 20 years now. And people ask me, how do you not get pissed off when you know all this stuff? What kind of keeps you sane with it? Because I don't let any of it bother me. I don't get angry about it. And I've kind of thought about that. What is it? What are the things that keep me going, and how do I find peace and purpose in an insane world? And I'm not even going to get into all the insanity, because you guys know it. You can see it every day. It's clown world. And so I got back on Twitter, and I took many years off social media, actually, because during the COVID scam, I just couldn't handle watching my friends turn into absolute retards. And so I had to get off it just for sanity. And that was Facebook. I used to use Facebook. I'm not on there anymore. But I have got back onto Twitter because I have to admit, I like conversations. I like sharing thoughts with people. I like engaging in ideas. And one thing I really do enjoy is especially now because Twitter is a lot more open than it was, I do enjoy going on and following mainstream media articles and looking at the comment section. It's amazing how nobody believes their bullshit anymore. It's really, really inspiring and refreshing. They're really pushing this climate hoax thing now. It's not working. Nobody's buying it. Look at the comments. Nobody buys it. It's hilarious. And so anyways, so this video is going to be on Twitter. And today I want to talk to you guys about these things that it's my list. And if you can find value in it, then great. But these are 5 things that I use to keep me surviving and thriving the New World Order and the next 10 years. It's kind of my plan based on what we're doing up here. And I'd like to share it with you, and I hope that you find it valuable. So the first thing on the list is to know thy enemy and accept the reality of the situation. And so what does that mean? And who is the enemy? Well, I call the enemy the New World Order. And this is the consortium that we first heard about in Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope, which is a must for anybody who's going down the rabbit hole but wants a really verified source. It's a great book to start with, because Carol Quigley, who was Bill Clinton's mentor and who was a big supporter of the New World Order when he wrote the book, and then he later wrote a book called The Anglo-American Establishment, where he kind of defected from the New World Order. But in this book, he's a big supporter of it. And he talks about these rings of control, and this is how a very small group of people use compartmentalization to control the masses and control most industry in the world. most industry, financial systems, governments, you name it, they use these rings of control. And so in Tragedy and Hope, Carol Quigley explains that. And so you can check that book out, and I could go on forever about other things you could watch. I hope I'm not just red pilling you. I'm hoping you already kind of know this stuff. But knowing that enemy, what is that enemy? Well, right now, the New World Order is this combination of all these groups. The Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, big finance, big government, the UN, the World Economic Forum, all of these groups that write books. All these guys write books, and they talk about how they're going to execute their plan. And I know I'm just kind of saying what you've probably heard before, but just to reiterate, to make my point, is that they want a world ID. Eventually they want a world government. But right now they're putting out plans to create a world ID and a new digital currency. And that'll probably start in the form of what are called central bank digital currencies in most governments. So Canada will have one. There's already a bill to bring it in. The US will have one. There's already a bill to bring that in. And most other Western countries will have them, though people are rejecting it, which is a good thing. And they want us in this digital gulag. They want you living your entire world online and disconnected from real people, living online so that you can be surveilled, and then with your digital ID, you will be plugged into a social credit system that will create a digital gulag where you'll face ostracism if you don't toe the line and repeat the narrative. So that's the situation, and it sounds really bad, and it is, but you don't have to be a part of it, because the thing with all of this stuff, and if 2 years of COVID aren't evidence enough for this, is that you had a choice all along. You had the choice to say no. Granted, that choice had a lot of conditions in it. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost family members. It was terrible. But you did have a choice. And you will continue to have a choice, because that is the game. The devil has to make you do it. The devil has to make you play into the game. And the devil can only use trickery. And that is the reality of the situation. So if you can set yourself up where you're not pinched and you're not controlled by it, then you don't have to be a part of it. And so I actually have no worry about the folks like myself and many others that I know who've moved out to the country, and we are looking after ourselves. So I have no concerns about that. And I'll kind of circle back to that as I go through this list. But that's the number one thing. You have to understand who the enemy is and the reality of it. And in summary, the enemy of the New World Order, essentially for me, is all government. Not necessarily everybody who works in the government, because people are compartmentalized. But I don't believe anything governments say. I don't believe anything big corporations say. And really, I trust my own eyes, because that's really all you need now, is your own eyes to see. And you can have a so-called expert tell you that there's 72 genders, and you might even question, what is gender? It's nothing. It's biological sex. But they can tell you that these things don't exist. Meanwhile, you can see them with your own eyes. They can tell you that the sky is falling and that climate change is impending doom. And Al Gore has been telling you this for a very long time. Meanwhile, all the predictions that they make are wrong. They told you that you needed to wear 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 masks, 4 masks, and take 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4 shot, 5 shot. And you've seen everybody who take the shot get COVID, if not have adverse reactions, which is the proper reaction to the vaccine. But you can see all the things that are important with your own eyes. And so just being honest about it and accepting the reality of it is the first step. The next step is, I've got my notes here, don't feed the beast. The beast, and I'm using that term sort of metaphorically, but you could also kind of go down the proverbial rabbit hole and look at the greater sort of biblical things that are happening in this time. But the beast, the machine, feeds on low frequency vibrations. So don't feed it. Don't feed into hate, anger, jealousy, rage, Don't feed into these low frequency vibrations, because then you're giving the beast exactly what it needs. And all this stuff that's going on right now, all this insane woke stuff, you watch a Twitter account like Libs of TikTok, and you can get pretty angry. You'll see these people bragging about brainwashing children or confusing them, like literally bragging about it. And it's designed to piss you off. TikTok's algorithm is degeneracy, and it's probably a psyop from somebody to demoralize further the Western world, America, North America, what have you. And that's been happening for a long time. Really, TikTok isn't really anything new. It's just kind of expedited the insanity. But don't feed into it. Don't sit there and troll and hate on people, because all this woke stuff is designed to bait you. It's designed to get you angry. It's designed to make you react. And you don't want to be in a state of reaction. You want to be in a state of being proactive and creating. So don't feed the beast. Don't worry about things that you can't change. They tell you that it's impending doom with climate change. They tell you that there's another COVID. All these things, they just want you to be fearful. They want you to be in a low frequency, because when you're in a low frequency, you can't see beyond the veil. You only see the material world and what's immediately right in front of you, and you don't have the ability to broaden your perspective and look at the macro picture, and also have some reverence and appreciation and gratitude for the world around you and the people around you. They don't want you there, because gratitude is a high frequency vibration. They don't want you in high frequency. They want you in the lowest frequency possible. So don't feed into the beast. That's number 2. And again, these are all things, this is my list. And if it helps you, great. Number 3 is stay focused and positive. Now, in order to stay focused, I think you have to be positive, in my opinion, at least in my experience, in order for me to, because I pay attention to all the BS. I pay attention to all this madness that's going on, and it doesn't bother me, and it doesn't distract me from getting things done. It doesn't change my resolve. And so I have to stay positive. I also have young kids, and to not be positive and to get really hung up on being negative and pissed off all the time really sucks your energy away from being constructive. So you got to stay positive to stay focused. And you sometimes need to remind yourself of that daily. I remember when I sort of officially changed my perspective from being a pessimist, which I think it was my default position when I was born, to being an optimist. I had to write things down. I had to remind myself every morning to stop thinking negatively. And I read a book a long time ago, probably 20 years. It was called You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. I forget the author, but you could just search that title. You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. And it's been a long time, but the book basically just trains you to keep training your mind to think positive. And it takes effort. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a difficult thing to do, but it's a must. For me, to do the things that I do, to accomplish the things that I have, positive thought is instrumental. And it's the first step to changing a lot of things in your life. For me, coming from that negative state, it was changing my thoughts, and then changing my habits, and then changing the people around me. That was very important, and it changed my life. But staying focused, in order to stay focused, you need to stay positive. So that's my solution for staying positive. Number 4 is get connected with people in the real world. I'm not saying get offline, but really put more effort into relationships that are people around you in your community than you do online. And look, we all have to, well, a lot of people these days, especially myself, we have relationships with people online. My business, all my business partners I communicate with online. That's just the reality of it. But when it comes to living in my community here, being on my homestead, the biggest dividends in social equity, social capital, have come from me focusing on people in my community. I wouldn't actually even be building my house right now if it weren't for that, because when I moved here, I didn't know a lot of people, and I'm in a pretty rural area, and I was having to bring workers in here from out of town, and it was a real hassle because I had to host people on my land, which is work, and it's exhausting. It's also hard to be a remote worker. But getting into the community, getting to know people, has made it so that I can have a whole crew now, local. They all live here, and that was crucial. So if you want to get established on the land in some way, you can't just do it alone. Doing it alone is tough. You got to get to know people, and you got to put out the feelers, but also put in the work to build those relationships. And Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum want you online. They want everything you do online so that you can be tracked and surveilled and essentially ostracized into this digital gulag that they want you in. So really put effort into relationships that are offline. And then lastly is probably, they're all important, but this was very important, and it's a good one to end on, and probably the one I might spend the most time on, is control and responsibility. So as we move into this new paradigm, which I don't think we can change, and I kind of should have said this at the beginning a bit, but the situation we're in right now, I believe there's no political remedy. It doesn't matter who gets elected at this point. And the main reason for that is that the beast system has been so entrenched in all sectors of our economy and government and society and culture and media for so long that there are at least 2 generations of people that are completely brainwashed. Just again, look at some of the best ofs with libs of TikTok and look at the things that people believe and say. And look at the actions people take. There are a lot of people, I think it's a 700% increase in transgender surgeries, which, if gender is a social construct, how could you have transgender? It doesn't make any sense. The whole term is a contradiction. And you could go on about a lot of those types of things. There's a lot of people out there that literally believe 2 + 2 is 5. Not literally, figuratively. And it's madness. So it doesn't matter if you think Donald Trump wins the next election and he's going to save the day, because there are millions, tens if not hundreds of millions of people out there in the Western world that believe nonsense. And so it doesn't matter if Trump were to get elected in the US, or say Pierre Poilievre, the new conservative leader, or even Maxime Bernier for that matter, were to be elected. It doesn't matter. All of these agents of destruction, unbeknownst to themselves, they're all compartmentalized, are still out there, and they're going to smash the system. So I believe the system as we know it, which is the New World Order, is actually going to crash. And I think the New World Order's hope is that in that crash, by using a Cloward and Piven strategy, which means to smash and bring to the brink all social programs, and everything in the economy. So crash the financial sector, crash the healthcare services. You can see that's happening now still, even during COVID, after COVID, and now with all of this nightmare of transgender surgery, that's going to come back to roost. And there's going to be a lot of people needing medical service for the rest of their lives, and that's going to stress the system. So Cloward and Piven is the name of the strategy. You can watch. I used to watch old videos of Thomas Sowell from the 1970s debating Francis Fox Piven, who was the co-author of the strategy. And that's how a lot of these radical leftists think they can bring in communism, is by crashing the system. Even people like AOC talk about this openly. And she's a useful idiot. She's compartmentalized, but they literally think that's a great idea. And so because all of that is going to happen, in my opinion, the only way through this is to take total control and as much control as you can of the things that you need. And you can't do it all. You can't just be the lone wolf. It's a multifold strategy, but take control of as many of the things in your life that you need as possible. So for myself, on our homesteading project, that's been primarily food, water, energy, and shelter. So we're off grid. Excuse me. We're off grid. 20 kilowatts of solar, 100 kilowatt hours of battery, 13 kilowatt diesel generator. We're completely energy independent except 1 month of the year, which I need to burn diesel. Other than that, I'm on strictly solar for 11 months of the year without any problem whatsoever. We have our own water source. So we have a well, and we actually have 2 water sources. And I might circle back to that, but 2 water sources super important because one might fail. You always want to have a redundancy. We're growing our own food. I've got a half acre of annual vegetable gardens. I've just finishing the landscaping on my next food forest. I walked through my first food forest a number of minutes ago there, but we've got a lot of fruit trees. There's going to be 400 trees down in that new food forest. We've got 3 greenhouses. I have laying hens. I have 30 meat birds, 3 turkeys right now. We're continuously improving our food systems. And of course, shelter. We're building our home right now. We had a small home when we bought this property that came with this place. But food, water, energy, shelter. Take as much responsibility for those things as possible, because if you don't, somebody else will take responsibility for them and they'll be offering you a solution. And that's what it's going to look like. And so the more dependent you are on the system, the more you can be pinched. And that's exactly what the New World Order wants. And just look at how dependent most of society is today. Most kids don't even know how to cook. They don't even know where their food comes from. I had a guy, a millennial, come up and work for me not too long ago. It was through another contractor, so I didn't hire him. But this guy came out to this remote job, and he didn't even bring a lunch. I was like, you don't go to work and bring a lunch? Like, it's the thing that there's at least 2 generations of people now that just don't know anything about hard work. And I know I'm preaching to the converted, because anybody who's over 40 is going to be, shaking their head or rolling their eyes on how insanely useless so many young people are today. It's quite scary. And so the system is going to collapse. And I'm optimistic about that, because what I believe is that the way through it is to just survive and thrive. Get yourself back on the land. Get more connected to God's creation. In these massive cities that most of the people in the world live in now, you're surrounded by man's creation. And that's what they want. They want you to be controlled. And so they want you hacked, tracked, stacked, and packed in tall apartment condominiums that the architecture today looks like communist Russia did. And what you see in places like Poland is it's uninspiring. And we're in this era of the New World Order has taken control and has had control for a long time. And the next step is to get you that much more removed from God's creation or your own real experience and get you just plugged into the matrix. Literally. That's what they want. And that's where this is all going. So the more you can take control of the things that you need, the less chance you'll be pinched. And something like water, I was mentioning water earlier. It's just so important. And one thing I've been spending a lot of time on lately, and it's part of the reason why I haven't put out as many videos lately. I've been number 1 on the Homestead, but I've also been working on finding people properties. So I've been publishing a list about 10 properties a week for the last 8 weeks, and going out with my team and finding really premium A-grade homestead properties around the world, primarily North America. Most of our clients are in the US, some are in Canada. We have some in Australia. But basically, we built that course that I had some videos come out for in the spring called Finding the Perfect Homestead Property. And basically I lay out my 11 factors that I use to grade whether a property is good for homesteading. So we talk about climate, geography, water, access and circulation, socioeconomics, all these things we grade. And we just had, after we published the course, it went very well, but we had a number of people just ask us if we could continue to publish properties and find properties. And we said, okay, well, let's try it. Maybe there's a market for it. And so we do. We publish 10 properties a week, and it's been really neat for me because this is what I spend about kind of a couple hours each week doing this and looking at properties around mostly the US, but again, we have looked at some in Canada and Australia, and it's been amazing what we found. And we found that there's just some states where there's insane opportunity. Like if you look at, if you want to get on the land, if you want to get out and say you're in the US, which is the vast majority of people who watch my YouTube videos, the best place to be in the US as far as a region is the Southeast. The climate is amazing in the Southeast of the US. So I'm talking Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Northeast part of Texas is one of my favorite places. Arkansas, not really Florida. You can't really find any good deals in Florida anymore. I'm going to come down and feed these birds. They're getting famished. That whole portion of the U.S. is insane. You go to try to find a place in Arizona, New Mexico, even places like Montana and Wyoming and Idaho are getting really difficult to find places in because so many people have moved there. But in the Southeast, it's absolutely insane. Like we've been looking at properties recently in Mississippi and Louisiana, and it's absolutely insane. What you can get as far as cost for an equivalent acreage, what you can get in places like that opposed to places in the Southwest is about half the cost for the same value. So you could find in a place like Louisiana or Alabama, actually really like Alabama, you can find a place for $300,000 with 20 to 40 acres, a decent house, a pond, places for gardens. It's absolutely insane what you can find. Whereas you go to a place like Arizona and New Mexico, not even close to the value of what you can get in the Southeast. So I would say if you're looking, consider looking in those places. One thing that's really great about the Southeast too is there's a ton of water. And the whole Southeast of the U.S. is what's called a CFA climate, which is a temperate climate. So lots of rain, lots of green. Even a state like Kentucky, which you can get really good value in. Amazing climate, just beautiful flora and fauna, unbelievable value you can find. And so that's what I've been spending some time on, and it kind of also led me to making this video, just thinking about solutions for people, because I want more people to experience what I am. Get out of the cities and get on the land. But to do that is quite a big undertaking. There's a lot of looking you have to do, and it's not easy. So if you're interested in that, and you're interested in me finding a property for you, I'll do that. Again, we publish 10 a week, comes out in an email, and then I do one monthly call where I just answer questions, and I'll even evaluate your properties for you. We've got a number of success stories now. We have people that have bought properties that are on our list, and it's changed their life. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link below. You can check it out. And I do all the reviews. So my team go and do broad searches. Sometimes we have to look at 200 listings to just produce 10. And when I say look at, I mean do a fairly full evaluation. We go in, find it on Google Earth, evaluate it, pull up the climate data. We put a ton of work into this, and then I'll do a video assessment of each of these properties each week. So you'll get an email from me that has links to videos that I go and rate these properties. And you can suggest which ones you want. So if you're in the state of Alabama and you want to look for properties in Alabama, we'll look in Alabama and we'll publish properties in Alabama. So right now, the group in there is fairly small that we've been able to manage every single week. If people ask us to look in a certain state, we're able to do that. So yeah, if you're interested in that, it's called the Homestead Accelerator, and I'm really passionate about it. I actually am really enjoying looking at these properties and helping people find a direct solution to a way out, because there's still a lot of opportunity in real estate, even though despite the fact that prices are high, historically speaking, and interest rates are high. But in the U.S., there's still deals. Canada, forget about it. Not totally. I mean, we've evaluated properties in BC and Ontario, but it's absolutely shocking the difference in values from just a place in my region of southern BC, and then I drive, half an hour to the U.S. border and can find the exact same type of property for a third to half the cost, and that's with the exchange rate. It's just crazy. And then you go to a place like Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, it's unbelievable what you can find. It's got to make sure you're out of those threat zones. And that's one thing we do when we evaluate these properties for our clients, is we do a full threat analysis. So we make sure there's no threats. There's no cell towers nearby. There's no big ag nearby. There's no big industry. There's no contaminated water. We're looking for those threats, and then we're evaluating that each property has to have at least 2 water sources. So every single property that we publish every week has 2 water sources. So it could be a pond and a well. It could be city grid water and a pond, or it could be, Roxy, get off there. My dog trying to jump the chicken fence. It could be a combination of it. It could be a stream, could be have a pit well, whatever it is. Every property that we're publishing has 2 water sources, and that's very important in this with what's going on right now, with basically the the desire to depopulate the world. The New World Order wants to depopulate the world. That is on record. And they use all kinds of means to do that. You want to be in control of your water, because if you don't have water, you can't really do anything on your property. It's hard to live there. You can't grow. That's what's challenging about places like New Mexico, Arizona, even Western Texas. It's so dry. It's called BSK climate. So it's a semi-arid, especially getting to those high elevations, even parts, the whole western side of the U.S., Montana, Wyoming, Utah. All these places are super, super dry. And you can have good groundwater. You could have amazing, limitless groundwater in some of these places. And if you're going to live in those places, that's what you want. If you're living in New Mexico and you're reliant on a river or a draw or surface water, that's pretty tough. You want to have a well, a serious producing well, I would say at least 10 GPM, that you can draw from year round. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to establish yourself on that land. So yeah, that's it for this video, folks. I hope it was helpful to you. And again, if you're interested in that Homestead Accelerator, check it out. There'll be a link somewhere on or in the video here. And hoping to see some of you folks on Twitter. So if you want to follow me there, I'm posting stuff. I'm sharing stuff every now and then. I try to make fun of things if I'm pointing out things in the mainstream media. I'm trying to make fun of them, because you have to laugh at these people. But you can follow me there at offgridstone. And yeah, I'm going to be posting some more videos there. Perhaps if videos on YouTube get censored or pulled down, Twitter will be another place that I share content. And you can find my live streams on Rumble if you're not a FromTheField.tv member, because that's where I do still post the majority of my content. But I'm going to give Twitter a try and see if it's as good of a free speech platform as it looks, though I know it's not perfect because there's still a lot of people that have been banned from it, but we're going to check it out. All right, folks, I'll see you guys in the next one. If you like this video, smash the like, share the videos if it was helpful to you, and subscribe. All right, see you in the next one. If you're interested in having me find you your dream homestead property, every week I send an email directly to you with 10 A-rated homestead properties, and I do a video review for each one. To learn more, click the link in the screen or down below.